not our final, sorry. Our next step is going to be to install the barrel. So for this, we're going to let this set all the way down in here. We've got our nice blued barrel. Barrel tendons installed, front sight post, rear sight post, everything nice and blued, everything cleaned up. So start at the back. Front snapped in first, which is not what I wanted. Okay. Again, start at the back. Get the back lined up. Loosen the lock a little bit to allow the barrel to pass by the lock. Now that we've got that loose enough, go ahead and the rubber mallet, tap that in until we're flush up against the back. Still got a little ways to go. We're nice and snug. All right, so our first step is going to be to install the screw for the barrel lug, and this is what's going to pull the trigger mechanism nice and snug as well. Need to get my smudged fingerprints off, get some oil and maybe a little steel wool and give it another polish too. So we've got that installed. So while we're up here, as you can see, I blued the flash cap as well. So we're going to go ahead and install that. Going to get me a wrench to put that on and it's a little snugger than I'd like right now. And it's probably because we blued this whole thing. So we're gonna brush it out again. Just make sure we pull everything out of there. A little bit of acetone. I'm sorry, brake cleaner. And again, I'm not sure if you can see it or if you've seen my face recently, but we are making sure that we're wearing all proper PPE. So we've got gloves on, wearing glasses. Just because we're in the assembly phase doesn't necessarily mean we're done with the chemicals that could get in our eyes, affect our eyesight, or any of that. So. And we'll work this in and out until we know we've gotten it all the way in. That way we know we're freeing up these threads. And before the last go round, we'll go ahead and lubricate in here with a little bit of gun oil. See, and we're really getting rid of that bluing that's in there. Because unfortunately, like I said, during the bluing process, my plug didn't hold tight through the threads, and we got some moisture inside. And with that moisture, we ended up getting a little bit of rust. And following the advice of gunsmiths, I chose my best course of action was going to be to go ahead and convert that surface rust instead of trying to scrape and clean it away. And then everybody said as the gun is used, especially with it being a black powder, all the bluing on that may have happened on the inside of the bore or the inside of the flash pan or flash hole will end up getting worn away, and it'll get worn back to bare metal just from the natural cleaning process. And everybody was very adamant how much easier it is to remove blue than it is to remove rust. So I'm taking the industry advice. All right, we've gotten this to reach the end of its threads. So go ahead, spray a little bit more, get one last cleaning down in there with a cotton swab. Spray this, get it wet just so I can pull it a little looser. Let it pick up all that finite dust that's in there. All right, so we got the internal of our flash pan cleaned out. As I promised, I'm gonna get a drop of gun oil. Put it on these threads. And get that all the way in there by hand. Good. Now give it a half turn, maybe a little more. Could have went further by hand apparently. And there we are. So we've got everything installed with our flash minus the screw. Again, we don't want the screw gummed up in here because this is going to be our source for cleaning the gun. So we're going to go ahead and put a drop of lube on there, install the screw, and now the end of my screwdriver's got a little bit of lubricant on it, so it's a little slippery. Hold it in place so as not to mess anything up. Got that in there nice and flush. Now to re-tighten our lock from loosening it to allow the barrel to fit snugly past the lock. Make sure we don't have any screw protrusion. So there we have it. So at this point in time, we've got a complete install. Got the butt plate, toe plate, trigger guard, trigger, lock installed, flash pan cap screw, rear sight, barrel tenon is going to be the next thing that we have to do, install our 2 barrel tenons. And then we'll be all buttoned up with this. So we're going to get the gun vise out of the way and move on to our final steps. All right, so we want to be careful doing this. We're going to double check our tenon location. We're going to do that just using the end of a cotton swab. Make sure it passes all the way through. It does. Make sure it passes all the way through. It does. All right, so now we know our tenons are in the right location. So just get out the appropriate size punch. And drive our barrel tenons in. So when I initially put these tenons in, I did it going in and out in only one direction. So our hole on the opposite side of the barrel is a little more snug than what we're dealing with on this side of the barrel. So, and then on top of that, we're dealing with a little bit of stock finish protruding into the holes. So that's going to add to the tightness. All right, so now we've got the tenons in there pretty good. We're gonna get a punch that's about the same size as our pins. Get that flush. And now we're gonna use a smaller pin punch, or smaller punch, just to get that through. And we wanna make sure we're about even protrusion through the wood. So we've got equal connection on either side of the wood. So again, we're going to do the same thing on the front. Use a punch about the same size as our pin. Get that flush with the wood. So all right, so there we have it. Protruding through to the wood. I'm going to go a little bit deeper on this front one, possibly on the rear one too. So. Should be good. All right. Okay. So we've got everything through the barrel. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna wipe the whole thing off with some acetone. Look and see, make sure there's no areas we got to touch up.